Welcome back to Manifest 360, the podcast where we stop trying to control every little detail and we start aligning with something even bigger. Today's topic is a tough one for the high achievers, overthinkers, and let's be honest, anyone who's ever refreshed their email 47 times in the last 10 seconds. Trusting the universe. Because trusting the universe sounds great until things don't go your way. Am I wrong, Vipin? You know, we try to trust the universe until things don't work out the way we want it to work, and then we're like, come on, man, come on.
Come on. Like my laptop this morning, right? It just took 10 minutes to... Exactly. You wake up, you turn on your laptop, and it's not working. And you try to figure it out, and you're like, oh, geez, the universe is not working today. It's telling me something different than I want to hear.
Yeah, so, I mean, you have to just go with the flow, because if you don't go with the flow, you're going to end up hitting a roadblock, and when you hit that roadblock, then things don't happen, you know?
I mean, you do hit a roadblock, and that's when you got to go with the flow, right? And so
exactly.
We hit a roadblock today. No podcast from the laptop. It's from the phone, and it is what it is. You just got to go around it, the roadblock. You got to go through it. You got to find a way, jump over it, whatever you got to do. But the universe will sometimes block your path, and you got to trust that it's got a better interest in mind. It's got a better interest in mind. So how was your week this week, Bob?
You know, not bad. As I've told you before, that my hip is really bad. It's starting to bother me more and more, and I'm getting to be like an old man. You know, when I walk, I feel like I'm definitely like an old dude when I'm walking, because I limp everywhere I go and I hurt with every moment. But you know, I thought to myself, at least I'm able to get up and out of bed, and at least I'm able to go and do stuff, and at least I'm still able to work. So I mean, even though there's bad things, I try to look at the positive things in it.
Yeah. There's not a positive thing in it, but you find a positive in something else, and it's grateful for whatever you got going on. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's I got that light hip issue too, and so universe is telling you to eat more oatmeal, buddy. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is something.
It's something. Yeah. So I've been eating a lot more oatmeal in the last 2 weeks than I have in the recent years, and I am looking at my health as well. I changed my mantra this week. And I put health as number one. I'm worthy of health, wealth, and something else. I'm not going to say what that something else is, but
Right.
Health and wealth are really important. If you don't have your health, all your wealth's going to go away real quickly. And so you're going to spend all your wealth on trying to get your health.
Health, wealth, and stealth. You could be quick.
Exactly. So, yeah. So this topic is interesting because a lot of times in life, we don't get our expectations met. We get things, we lose a job, we lose a relationship, we can have dramatic things happen, we can lose a loved one, it can be brutal, man. So how do you trust the universe in those moments? That's kind of what we should talk about today. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I don't think you have all the answers. I don't think anyone has all the answers. But if you want to check out what my thoughts on it would be, go to vipingpt.com and a little plugin that I built this week. So what I did this week, Bob, and I think it's interesting to do this, I took all of our podcasts and I took all of our recordings and I took my book material and I trained an AI model to create VipinGPT. So if anybody listens to the podcast, not a plugin, but if you do want to hear about the podcast and what the message is, how do you trust the universe? Type it into vipingGPT.com. We're not going to talk about it much. I'm not monetizing it. It's more of a fun thing for myself. I've been using the name VipinGPT just when I process information. Somebody sends me a message. Somebody sends me a difficult problem to solve. I process information and I say, oh, let me think about it for a moment. Let me process it with VipinGPT. That's kind of been my brain.
Right.
And so I just kind of plugged it in this week and I really enjoyed it. And it's just a fun hobby thing that I just did. But on a serious note, trusting the universe. So what is the universe? We talk about a higher source, a God for a lot of us, the Holy Spirit, the Atman, the soul. And so we're all interconnected in the universe is what I believe. And I think there is some sort of a higher source that sometimes lives in us through Christianity. You talked about the Holy Spirit or in the soul or in our spirit. And so how do you trust that intuition? How do you trust that higher source message? And what kind of a message does it tell you? Sometimes it can be brutal. It will just slam a door right in front of your face when you're going left and you got to go right, right? Sometimes
Or there's a wall
it's
there
a
where there should have been a door or something. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. I went somewhere this week and the road was blocked, so I had to go to the left. I was yesterday on a walk actually, and they were doing some road work, so they blocked it off on a Saturday afternoon. So those are minor things, and then there's bigger things like losing your job or those kind of things that can be pretty brutal. A lot of people are affected by AI and technology, and a lot of people there's a lot of layoffs coming down the pipe, and there's people like Elon Musk are saying, the AI is going to replace 30% of the knowledge worker jobs in the near future, and it's going to be at a rapid pace. And so a lot of people are freaking out. A lot of people are feeling the pain. So in those moments, what are our options? That's really what it comes down to is in those moments, what are you going to think about? Are you going to drown in your sorrows? Are you going to look at the door slammed and you're going to keep looking at that door slammed? Or like what we talked about a few weeks ago, there's a window opening. And the window opening, there's some light coming through there. Maybe we start looking down that light and saying, okay, is there a way out of this situation, out of this room? The door slammed, there's a window. I can jump up, try to climb it, or I can just see and ask for help or whatever. So usually for me, when I get in these situations, there's help around the corner, through a window, through another door, through a little crease. I think in those moments, we become a little helpless. And when we become a little helpless, we have to trust in a higher source or other people who may be working through a source. Or in my life, I can tell you a lot of times, like when my father passed away back in 1989, and I think I've talked to you about it, this woman, a Christian woman, friend of a friend, came in and gave me like these verses from the Bible, and they're very soothing and very comforting. And I remember her sitting down with me in the hallway of my dorm and reading through these things and just comforting me in that moment. I don't know her name. I forgot her name. I haven't kept in touch with her. I wasn't that good friends with her. But in that particular moment, she was like a little angel that came in my life and helped me out. Look back through all of my life. I talk a lot about working at Microsoft and other big companies. I remember having a really hard time at Microsoft, and there was an older gentleman who was working in my group. He's probably the oldest guy working there, probably in his mid 60s. And he came in and recommended some books and was a really good friend of mine and supported me. And I can't think of his name either. Now, we were good friends and for those couple of years that we were there together. But yeah, it's just angels come through people. People become angels. God speaks through people. I firmly believe that. And so for me, when things go wrong or the doors close, look for help, ask for help. The universe will usually answer through friends, through people, through strangers, and just go out and seek help in any way we can. So that's the number one way for me to start going down the path of trusting the universe.
Well, I think a lot of people have problems with that because they have a problem with trust. And I think that trust is the introduction of uncertainty, because you have to trust that something good's going to happen or something different is going to happen. And if you let that stuff go too far, sometimes it can really mess with a person. It really truly can. I know that we've all had negative things happen to us. I mean, I've been laid off from a couple of jobs now. I was divorced after being married for 30 years. We've all had big things hit us at a time when we don't think it's going to happen, or that, I brought up the marriage thing. So I trusted that I was going to be married forever. You know what I mean? I thought that This is it. This is going to happen. This is going to be my end all be all thing. And, we just fell out of love. We're still friends. We still care a lot about each other. As a matter of fact, my partner Monique and I spent the day at my ex's house yesterday watching grandkids. And my ex was there, and we were just kind of hanging out, BSing, and just, So even though we trust things and we let the process happen, I think that letting the process happen and unfold the way that it should is what I think a lot of us just forget to do, because we want to rush that process and we want to make the hurt go away, and it's hard to follow the trust sometimes when you're hurting.
Yeah, when you're hurting or when you're suffering, right? I remember a quote from Oprah. We don't quote Oprah here on this show very often.
You get a car. Oh, that's the only quote I know.
You get a house. Yeah.
You get a house. You get
There's a quote that she said, I want to say in the late 80s, early 90s, probably mid 90s, that I was watching it with my mom or something. without true suffering, there's no true joy. And we've talked a lot on this show about people going through hard times, people with addictions and recovery, and people who go through hard times, once they realize that they went through it and they become healed, and once they realize that there's a gift in it, and that gift is the experience, maybe they can help others with it that are going through a hard time. That's when people become angels in my mind. When they share those gifts with you, they're like, hey, I've been through this hard time with you, or I've been through this same problem you're having in business. And so executives have been through a lot more than most people think that they have. They're like, oh, he's just a really smart guy, super successful. I talk about Satya Nadella. I reached out to a friend of mine who introduced me to him yesterday, and the guy's been through a lot. He had a child who was severely disabled. Satya Nadella's son died a number of years ago. And here we think is, oh, great CEO making billions and millionaire, right? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. But we don't know the true thing that people have gone through with experiences and staying focused while you lose a child. And so people have gone through a lot. And when they turn their suffering, their pain into a lesson, and that lesson they learn through experience, only then can we listen to them. We only know something inherently by going through it in an experience-wise. We can read all the books in the world, but that's not what life is all about. Life is about going through experiences to really be able to say, gosh, I really know this subject because I went through it 4 times and it took me 4 times to learn the lesson. I'll talk about software development forever. I had a number of startups that failed. I almost lost everything once. And I basically had to survive. And it took me 10 to 15 years to build myself back up again. So it can take a long time to build yourself up again, right? And so what I did learn through all these lessons of building software and companies and whatever is I know what the pitfalls are. I know what the issues are. I know how to get help to fix the issues. And I know how to build software. Same thing around the book topic of manifestation. They're like, how do you know how to manifest? Because I've gone through pain of not manifesting a lot in my life. I've had huge failures. I've had huge certain scenarios, and now I feel blessed and grateful and abundant, so I can share these things. I think I told you we got this book coming out next year, right? Money and Mantras, and Manifest 360 app is a companion app for it. I wanted to write a book in 2006 before you and I even talked. You and I talked in 2012, 2011, then I was working at Microsoft. When you had your show in La Crosse. And before that, I wanted to write a book, similar concept of the chakras and their influence. But I just knew textbook knowledge at that point. I didn't really know how meditation can really change your mindset, your nervous system, your thought patterns, your brain waves, and how do you manifest through aligning your energies. I didn't know any of that stuff. Only through experience in the last 20 some years have I come up with real knowledge where somebody says something to me and I was like, okay, what does this mean? How do I analyze it? Do I get defensive on the situation? Do I answer? What's the best way to answer? So there's a thought process that I have developed. And you and I have talked about it even in the last couple of years. I've changed a lot, right? And we've developed our own skill through experiences. And why do we keep doing this podcast? So we can get better podcasts when we're on a bigger stage, so we can go talk about real things that we've experienced. So yeah, so it's a journey. When you actually take the experiences and help others, that's when the trusting of the universe really comes in. Because the universe is trying to mold you into the person that you really want to be. Not the person that you think you want to be, but the person that you really, really want to be. Your end goal, your end thing. And sometimes you won't realize it until you're mid-50s like us, or your mid-60s or whatever. Some people are lucky. They get to do it in their 30s or 40s. But I think it takes time to develop into who you really want to be, and to peel the layers of onions through pain and suffering. And so you got to trust the process. And so, yeah, that I'm going to pause for a second, get your thoughts on it. And I know you're writing down some notes.
Yep. You can see that. That's a nice thing about being able to look at each other when we're doing this, when we're doing the podcast, I think. So we can see kind of the cues of where we need to jump in and say stuff. All right, go ahead.
Yep. What are your notes you were going to say? Are there notes that you saw?
Well, here's what I was writing down. I was writing stuff down about how to trust that process and how to know when to start trusting more. So setting clear intentions by writing down your goals, and you and I have talked about that a lot in the past, and even the emailing yourself the goals on a daily basis that you started doing, and then you ended up rewriting an app to do something like that, so you can do that a lot easier. Take action and doing the work in order to achieve those goals, so that way your trust is kind of being built upon yourself, and then. Basically looking at the outcome and the timing of the whole thing, because we all tend to think that, this stuff needs to happen right now. But, it doesn't. It can be a course of a week or 2 weeks or a month or a year or hell, even 5 years or 10 years in order to have some things happen. Don't expect your stuff to happen immediately. Trust the process and the way that things will go. And then, then look back at things and make sure you see the way that things have worked out for you. And I think that a lot of us miss that step and look back to say, okay, so we trusted the process went the way that we thought it would in the long run, but what could we do to make it go a little bit better and a little bit faster for ourselves, so that way we're not stuck in spinning wheels or sinking in the quicksand, if you will. That way we're able to work forward to the goals and the things that we're trying to achieve.
Exactly. You said a lot there.
I did. My mind was just going a million miles an hour, and I just had to get it all out.
I love it. You're absorbing the things that we've talked about, and you're learning, and you're iterating, and you're growing along the same lines, right? So you get to trust the process when you put intentions out there, is the first thing that you said, right? You write down your intentions, your goals. And you can have thoughts of intentions of goals that you can write down 20 years ago, and they may come to fruition, and 20 years later you're like, oh my God, I wrote that down. I can't believe this is happening to me now. For me, in 1992, came out to visit Seattle, loved it. It took me 4 years to get to move. It took me 6 years to get to Seattle. After that, after coming to visit and loving the city, it took me 6 years finding a way to get to Seattle with a job already in hand. A job promoted me and moved me out here. That was one thing I manifested. It took 6 years. I manifested a house. I was walking around the neighborhood, and we're like, oh, wow, we never could afford a house up here on the hill, top of the hill. These are so expensive houses and blah, blah, blah. That was back in 98, 99. And sure enough, by 2002, we had manifested a house, amazing house up there. And so it's, again, manifested something in 3 years that I set goals of wanting to be a millionaire in 5 years through whatever method. Started out as executive sales, software sales guy. I made a bunch of money so I could have a year to not work and get paid. And ended up not getting paid for a year, and did a startup that ended up selling to a company out of Oregon. And so these things take time. It took 3.5, 4 years to become a millionaire at that point. So take time. You got to have the intentions. I actually want to talk about a little bit of, and like I said, after that, I lost everything, built myself up again 10 years later. So here I am. I'm telling you, like, amazing things are happening. Books coming out next year. We got a great publisher coming out. Money and Mantras. We talked about the apps that we're building through AI. Something interesting happened this week. Now, I have invested in a couple of companies through my own instances of giving the company money, but also giving my skills and services to the companies. And I always wanted to be a venture capital / incubator. Are you familiar with venture capital and or incubator business model? You are? Okay.
I watch a lot of Shark Tank, man.
Okay.
I got a lot of those ideas rolling around in his head.
Awesome. So a lot of people want to start businesses. Let me talk about that a little bit, just on this our Trust in the Universe piece. So I wanted to be a venture capitalist, and the path to being a venture capitalist in a traditional manner is going to Harvard or Stanford, and or you become a partner, you learn finance, you invest, and you become a partner, and then that's how you go down that path. The other path is to have a successful startup, make a bunch of money, donate to a venture fund, and become a partner or become a entrepreneur in residence. That's the traditional path. Then there are incubators or companies that help you, give you a little bit of money, but they give you knowledge. They give you knowledge in the form of strategy, business development, which is a sales strategy and growth plan, and or product development, which is like building the software or building the hardware or whatever. So they give you this package of knowledge to build a company, not just invest in you. That's called an incubator, right? So I have always wanted to work in an incubator. and a venture fund. It's kind of combined. Now, I worked with one that invested in my startup back in 1999. I spent about a year and a half with them. There are four partners in that venture fund, and they put in about $250 to $500,000 into our company. Started out with 250, then they did 500,000, and then did some loans and other things. That was a huge success to us. These guys became mentors and really good friends. One of them I ended up calling my godfather, Joe Marvin, who's recently passed in the last couple of years. But these guys were amazing, right? So I wanted to do this 20 years ago. I put this intention out there. This week, I was presented an opportunity to join a social good venture fund that has an incubation model attached to it. This woman I met through a friend of mine on LinkedIn. We talked for about an hour. The chemistry was incredible as far as business strategy and things that she did. And she talked about culture and building companies the right way, doing social good, supporting small communities, kind of that health startup thing that I've been talking about for the last month and a half. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I met her. We ended up talking about working together. She wants to invest in my startup, my healthcare startup. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I go, what kind of vehicle do you have? What kind of a fund and all of this stuff? Started talking about it more and more. And then as she was developing and talking about it, I was like, I want to be part of that. You have the growth and the sales strategy part down. I have the product development and product management part down. We could be a good team together. And so here we are. We agreed to terms verbally. And I'm now part of this venture fund called Kinder Venture Capital Lab. And what's really cool about that is most VCs are considered to be vultures capital. Have you heard that name, vulture capital,
Yeah.
instead of venture capital?
No. Yep.
Yeah. Those guys at Shark Tank are really sharks, right? They want to take as much money out of the company as they can, or equity out of the company. So there's no room to be a kinder, gentler VC in the world, or is there? I think there is one. I think there's a lot of companies that don't go to vulture capitals because they don't want to give away their soul to work for somebody who's going to take their money and their idea. And sure, they'll make a couple of $1 million, but they'll make a lot less if they went on it their own. So anyway, so we're developing this company, this venture fund. So I decided to join that Friday, and then yesterday we talked and we built out this huge thing. Anyway, so why I mentioned this is this was a dream of 20 years ago. It showed up in a form while I was doing the next right thing on a daily basis and setting up goals and setting up business and setting up experience. It took me 20 years to learn how to build software the right way. It took me a year to build software through AI that can rock and roll, that can scale, that can do blah, blah, blah. And now, because of all the things that I've been working on through pain and suffering and failures and building software and having testing issues and launch dates being missed and all this crap that goes into building something. I failed so many times in doing that, but luckily for large companies where I got to learn and work through it and get paid to do it, now I'm able to do things the right way. And this opportunity presented itself. I jumped on it. That person is experienced. Actually, that person is from, guess what state?
Wisconsin, Minnesota. Yes. Oh,
Wisconsin. So as life would have it, I somehow ended up going to college in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, down the street from La Crosse, right, where you were based forever. Her parents both went to Eau Claire, the woman venture capital person. She grew up in Appleton. And I meet her through a friend from Pennsylvania, and she lives in Portland, Oregon. So somehow Wisconsin has a sweet spot in my heart. So does Oregon, because I sold a company to Oregon. And now the healthcare startup that I was talking about is funded out of and is incorporated in the state of Oregon. So you got to kind of weave through the threads of saying, Wisconsin led you to technology. Wisconsin led you to your college degree. Minnesota led you to your home, your growth. Seattle led you to high-tech startup stuff and big corporation structures. And then Oregon gave you some benefits of, companies that are growing and more holistic and more socially conscious and more environmentally conscious and sustainable. So that's the kind of thing that happens when you kind of weave through the past. But I still show up every day. I still work my tail off every day. I trust the universe. I trust in a higher source. I trust in God, whatever you want to call it. But I do the right thing, and opportunities present themselves. That's when you go through and say, okay, this is working out for me because I did all the work. I failed. I became better at learning the lessons and I applied the lessons. So I said a lot there.
You said a lot of things there, like you just said, but you went to show that it's not a one-time thing, that trust isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily thing for you. It's the daily reps. It's the weekly and the monthly and the yearly things that go into it. You were just talking about something from 20 years ago, and you trusted the process, and here it is 20 years later, and things are starting to fall into place. I mean, sometimes it takes a long time for that stuff to happen.
Yeah, and at the same time, things fell in place for me to move to Seattle for a job that I had because I showed up and sold something to Microsoft. And because of that, the Microsoft sales team called me up in Minneapolis and said, "Hey, come work here because you got experience being successful selling stuff to Microsoft." Because I was selling stuff to Microsoft and had a corporate job, these guys wanted to start a company with me. They're like, "Hey, you're really good at this IT thing because of your experience with this company called Gartner." So they pulled me in. They're like, "Oh, we got a guy from Microsoft. We got a guy from Gartner. We started this company. We're going to fund it." So all these little wins came along the way. And when I lost everything, guess what I did? I remember sitting on the... What's that?
You trusted. You said, "Guess what I did?" I said, "You trusted." I just want to throw this in real quick before you start going off to the story. The universe has a much better track record, Vipin, than either one of us do in our panic and our thoughts and our things that are taking us down. So you got to trust that process, man. Trust it. Trust.
Okay. Now,
trust.
Yeah.
Waving the flag here, brother. Woo!
Trust. I totally agree. And I'm glad you're fired up about it. Something that you said that I kind of wanted to weave into it is trust and trusting. The title of this podcast today, I specifically gave you the word trusting the universe. Trusting is a verb. Trust is a noun. Trusting allows you to do it daily. You got to do it when you're driving on the 2-lane highway that we've talked about in the past. You're going to trust that you're going to stay in your lane, they're going to stay in their lane. Otherwise, collision's going to happen and you can die immediately. That can happen on a daily basis to people. And sometimes it happens when people do stupid stuff like drink and drive. But anyway, so the point being is you stay on the right side of the lane, they stay on their right side of the lane, you're trusting every single day. Trusting is part of the universe. The other thing that you said, I thought that was really, really interesting. You said, universe has an amazing track record. I read a meme this week, and I love to get these memes and get all this stuff from Facebook group that we have, that's Money and Mantras. And somebody posted, trusting the universe, because it has a much better track record, it's never failed a sunrise.
Oh, it hasn't. Or a beautiful sunset.
It's every single day. The clouds might be there to block it here and there, but every single day the sun rises and the sun sets. Universe has an incredible track record. Can you align with that? You align with the universe by trusting it, not necessarily forcing your way through it. And you also mentioned this amazing thing, and I'm going to give you a lot of credit for this podcast because you brought a lot of good thing about the flow. You go with the flow. When the doors are closing, the universe is telling you, no, don't go here. Go to that light in that window. Go ask for help. And I just wanted to cover up that, about 20 years ago, 18 years ago, when I had lost everything and I had decided that I need to go get a job, I remember talking to my mom in Minnesota. I was on the phone outside of this Trader Joe's by this parking lot. And she said to me, Vipin, don't you think it's time to get a job? You're pretty talented. I was almost 40 years old. And that's when I went back and I'm like, you know what? I need to get a job. Within a month, I landed an amazing job at Microsoft. So as crazy as that is, the universe will open doors for you. When you think you're hitting rock bottom, at that particular time, I hit rock bottom financially and professionally. And sure enough, the job at Microsoft opened up. I got the call. I actually got the job without even an in-face interview. I actually got it just from the phone interview. It was a contracting job, lasted a year, which set me up to a great FTE role a year and a half later down the road. But yeah, I got the job. And when I got the job, the guy was talking to me about his business, and he was a group manager at Microsoft, and he was talking about advertising. That particular week, there was an article. I had the interview lined up a week in advance. There was an article in Business Week about how Microsoft was changing its whole advertising business. It was like a 20-page article about Microsoft advertising and how it's competing with Google and all of this stuff in 2008. I read the whole article, digested it, and I pinged that guy, and I'm like, hey, what about this? What about that? And he was like, holy shit, you know a lot about this business. I read the article. That's why I knew about the business. I knew enough generally about the internet and the technology and advertising, but then I learned their whole strategy by reading this 20-page article. He's like, that's exactly what we're doing right now. You get to come and be part of this strategy. So that's how I landed up a job really quickly there and built myself up again. So the point being is you trust the process, but you still got to work your ass off. You still got to go in there and read that article. You still got to go in there and believe. You still got to go in there and do the action. Sometimes it'll happen in a month for a job. Sometimes it'll happen 2 years later, but you will get the job that you want. You will get the business that you want, or the career that you want, or the relationship that you want. It just may not be what you think it's going to look like. It might look better than what you think it's going to look like.
Yeah, just trust the universe. It'll happen. Any final thoughts, Vipin?
Yeah, it's just trusting, like you said, daily activity. You got to trust daily. What's the next step? What are you going to do the next hour? What are you going to do the next day? Just focus on the day today. What does trusting the universe tell you to do today? Self-care is important. We talked about self-care Saturdays a couple of weeks ago. Take care of yourself on a Saturday. Take the Sabbath, take a day off, chill for a little bit, and then do what you think is the best thing for yourself. Is it writing down your goals if you don't have any? Writing down your purpose if you don't have any. Go to Manifest360 app. Check out the tools that we have there to be able to go create your purpose, create your vision, create your prosperity plan. Little by little, things will happen. You just got to put the intentions out there, put it into writing, either on a computer or on a word book or workbook or whatever it is, a notebook that you have. So put your intentions out there. You said that today. Universe works when you have clear intentions. Write them down. And then trusting is a daily activity.
And that wraps up this episode of Manifest 360. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't just think about it, apply it. Alignment isn't a vibe, it's a practice. Belief, emotion, strategy, and action, all moving in the same direction, that's where momentum lives. Be sure to follow, share with someone building something meaningful, and join us next week as we continue helping you manifest wealth and purpose. Manifest 360 is a podcastforhire.com production.